Hello, everybody, and welcome to InsideHalos. My name is Jacob Firmage, and today we are joined by a special guest. He is the MLB Director over at FanSided. He is part of Yanks Go Yard podcast, as well as half of the Baseball Insiders. Probably has a better hat collection than all of us combined, and definitely did not write the tweet you hate. Adam Weinrib, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. And yeah, I have that in my bio that I didn't write the tweet you hated because I probably did. And people hate, people don't like to listen to Yankee fans. I hope that some of our listeners on the Baseball Insiders have come to accept that I do root for the New York Yankees on a regular basis quite fervently. And if not, that's, I understand. Let's just say I understand. But we try to bring you unbiased baseball news, takes, rumors, etc. on the Baseball Insiders. But if you want that bias, then come on over to Yanks Go Yard.
Yes. And speaking of the Baseball Insiders, how did it come this year where you guys actually ended up with the Silver Sluggers hosting that? I know if depending on when you're seeing this, yesterday, Thursday was the beginnings. Tonight we have the AL. How did that all come to be for you guys?
Oh yeah, it's wild. I mean, we're so thankful to luckily some folks we know in the industry just knew the Silver Sluggers were looking for a home and they reached out to us. And at first it's such a big honor to announce the Silver Sluggers that you get that offer and you're like, that self-defeating thing where you pre-turn it down. You're like, I don't know, like it's got to be somebody else's cool thing. Like, I don't think I can do that. And we had just more and more conversations with them. It felt like a better and better fit. Folks at Louisville Slugger were really thrilled with what we sold them, which was obviously the Baseball Insiders and the content package that came along with it. We made it clear that the success that we have is this opinionated content, multi-platform, multi-angle. We're going to be relentless in the way that we attack the coverage that we're able to provide in the aftermath of the winners. And they were just very excited about the total package. All of our writers are so excited. They're working with us on coordinating this. So it's been, an amazing ride and so excited to bring the exclusive reveal of the Silver Slugger to the Baseball Insiders. Depending on when you're listening to this, may have already run, but go back and watch the shows. They're pretty fun. Robert and I are really proud of what we put together.
Yes, and definitely Brian will have the links for those below. So if you haven't seen that, everybody go check that out. And just, speaking of, MLB Director over at FanSided, you have your podcast with the Yankees as well as with Robert. What are some ways, I know a lot of people ask, is getting into the media, getting into that kind of platform, whether it be on a fan page or like you're doing on multiple levels? What are some ways that you found, successful for getting into those?
Yeah, I think it's funny because I think I came up right before so many creative people who have more production skills than I do were able to make a road for themselves. And I'm so grateful to the people that I've worked alongside because I don't have the technical skills. What I have is the passion and humor and hopefully justifiable opinion. But I wanted a platform. I started in a different space in documentary production because I knew I did a lot of comedy and comedy writing. I wrote for Clickhole and the Onion Sports. And I knew I wanted to do that, but I also knew I wanted to be in sports. And I felt like the sports jobs were more appealing to me than the comedy jobs, whether it was the right decision or not. I didn't want to be like an assistant to the assistant at Comedy Central's, main offices. I just didn't see a path where anyone would take my work seriously. I don't know. Again, maybe right, maybe wrong, but I couldn't imagine like a lower level employee trying to hand an executive a script and that executive being like, I actually care about this. Like it felt like an impossible path. So I wanted somewhere I could express my opinions, a platform of some kind. And I ended up at Minute Media where they were sort of growing at the same rate I was. It was a platform with a lot of eyeballs, similar growth strategies, similar growth mindsets. But I definitely started in a place where I didn't know where it was going to take me. Like, all right, I'll sign on to work with this media company. I love the people. I love the fact that we're both at this, level of trying to get bigger, trying to get our voices out there. But I definitely didn't know where it would take me at first. And it was just all about the people I met along the way, the people who had the technical skills to amplify the voice that I had and was developing. I obviously didn't have it at first. It took a really long time to figure out how to channel my opinions and my, my fluency and the weird quirks that I bring into a voice that worked, a synthesis of all the stuff that the audiences actually want rather than, you learn about length early, right? You try to do like an article that's three times as long as it should be, or a script that's like 12 pages when it should be four. People talk you into brevity. They teach you about, okay, you can cut half of this, and at first you're shocked, but then within 2 or so years, feels a lot more comfortable. So I'm always going to be really jealous of the people who did have that. I feel like right after, maybe 2 years after I started, such a great wave of baseball creators and sports creators who just had the technical know-how and savvy and knew how to be themselves from day one, were able to create their own platforms and rise that way. It took a little while for me to learn how to get comfortable with how to advertise myself, and it took a lot of collaboration with a lot of people who knew more about that than I do to get to where I am. I'm obviously, still nowhere close to where I want to be. I always, want to keep driving, keep opening eyes, keep working with more and more great people. But yeah, I applaud everyone who's able to just like start the thing. And I think like the number one piece of advice I have for people in this landscape is just whatever the start is, don't overlook it or underestimate the effect it could have on you or the people you could meet because of it. If it's a fan-sided site, just joining as a novice, you want to write a couple of times per month, like do it, get the reps. If you want to start a podcast and you're like, well, I'm not important and nobody knows who I am and there are already so many podcasts. Sure, but you want to start it for a reason, right? So start it from zero. Don't worry about what the built-in audience it does take a little bit of swallowing your pride to be like, I have 23 listeners. I know all of them. They're my parents. Like, obviously, you don't want to, I was there. Like, we've all been there. We've all been at the point where you don't want to brag about the thing you're creating because you feel like it's too small. But every single time you do it, you get better at the thing you want to do the most. And the worst case scenario is you figure out that, okay, that might not be the outlet. I might have started on the wrong foot. I might have a different special sauce that I can bring to this that I wasn't thinking. Sometimes just talking with your friends, they'll be like, I do this with people pitching headlines all the time. They'll just be describing the headline and they'll be so funny and have a great unique hook and an interesting angle. And then the headline they give me is sort of dull or maybe omits all these specifics. And I'm like, you had it. When you were talking to me about it, you said something really funny and quirky and is a more intriguing hook for this than what you just pitched at the end. It's usually in you. Like if you have that passion, it's usually in there and it comes out just by talking and getting those reps. Like it sounds silly, but it couldn't be more important to just keep stretching, keep flexing.
No, absolutely. It's something like you said, getting more comfortable, just putting yourself out there, which is obviously a hard part, and swallowing your pride, all of that. It makes it difficult at times, but a lot of people want to get into it. It's a fun thing to do, and it's just an outlet, like you said. So it's been very interesting, and thank you. I appreciate your take on that. And kind of transitioning back to baseball a little bit, I know you had mentioned in there that's kind of you wanted to get into sports when you were doing the writing and all of that. Baseball, Yankees, how did you kind of fall into the Yankees over other teams? Was that like local to you, or was how was that happening?
Yeah, it was unavoidable. Like I kind of wish it didn't happen sometimes. It's the fan base with the most pressure on it. And nobody wants to hear Yankee fans cry, so you're not going to. Obviously, my childhood, I couldn't have asked for a better one. Now they're the butt of the joke at the end of every year. They got to win one. I feel like they got to win one more so that I can shrug off all these Red Sox and Blue Jays fans and Mets fans. Everybody cares about the Yankees whenever the season expires, no matter who wins the title. But yeah, it's very familial. And, I was born in New York, born in Brooklyn, raised and moved out to Westchester County, which is like 45 minutes outside the city when I was 7. So I've been in the region my whole life. My dad's father worked at Yankee Stadium as an usher in the late 50s, early 60s. My dad did that a little bit in college too. Yeah, it's the first thing that we really shared. It was unavoidable. And the first World Series I remember watching was 96. Yeah, I was 5 turning 6. So, I was cutting the Yankees pictures out of the newspaper and putting them in a scrapbook. Like there was no getting around it. I don't know what I can't think of a reason why I would have told my dad, no, I want to root for somebody else. But yeah, it was really born and baked into me. I know a lot of people come to Yankee fandom because, the history and the titles and the championships. I get it. But yeah, my first year watching was the start of something really special. And then yeah, early 2000s, late 90s to early 2000s, it was like I don't know why you'd want to be anything else. And then yeah, eventually bit of a bloated payroll dry spell. And so you start questioning things, but there was no other choice for me.
No, and especially in the early 2000s, felt like Yankees, Angels, or Red Sox, Angels. Those were kind of three of the major players yearly. At least felt like one of them had a good chance. I was kind of surprised looking back into it that they really only faced off three times early 2000s. 02, which led to the Angels winning the World Series.
Yeah.
05, which the White Sox year, and then 09, which might have been the most heartbreaking year as an Angels fan, where the Yankees did end up going on to win it. What was your perspective of the Angels kind of in the past? I mean, early 2000s to now, much different, probably thought process looking at the team. But, in those times, what was where you thought of the Angels?
It's so funny that the Yankees did beat them on the road to the 2009 title because these modern Yankees just beat the AL Central teams. It's always nice to think about a time when they actually beat an AL West foe. The Angels in the 2000s were sort of the Yankees' primary non-AL East adversary. Like it sounds strange to say now, but you're right that they were there every single year. The Yankees disposed of the A's regularly, the Mariners regularly. 2000, Roger Clemens almost threw a no-hitter in a playoff game in Seattle. 2001, the best Mariners team of all time, the Yankees knocked them out of the playoffs. So, and we didn't worry about the Red Sox until 2004 either. Now, beating the Red Sox is momentous. But 2003, I even remember in my family, people being like, maybe this is their year. Maybe we should give them a chance. And when the Yankees stole that game seven, it was kind of just like, that was the number one moment of disbelief in my childhood fandom of just like, how did that happen again? Like our disbelief doesn't match their devastation, but still. So the only teams that have really given the Yankees throughout my entire now everybody gives the Yankees trouble unless you're in the AL Central, right? Everybody kicks Aaron Boone around. But my whole life, it's really been the Angels and Tigers that have given the Yankees fits in the playoffs. The Yankees have never beaten the Tigers in a playoff series. It was 06 in the DS, 11 in the DS, 12 in the CS. They can't beat the Tigers, never have. Angels, that 09 ALCS was so cathartic because 02 and 05, it definitely felt like you were going into Anaheim, you were going into the Rally Monkey, you were not going to beat that team. Like you were not going to win road games against the Angels in the 2000s playoffs. And the Yankees did have a heartbreaking game five loss in Anaheim in 05 that I remember really well. A classic Yankees playoff series where they would win game one and you would be like, well, all right, we're cooking. But then very quickly it would spiral off the rails. You'd be like, what the hell? There was a crazy Randy Johnson start in that series where he was just getting bombed. I went to two wins, two Yankees wins in 02 and 05. I think 02 was game one. It was my first playoff game at Yankee Stadium ever. It was a bit of a late home run push. Bernie homered. It was a tight one, but I remember it kind of in the abstract as a late win. I think they were down in the eighth and homered a few times, 1-5-3 maybe. And then I saw Sean Chacon beat the Angels in game four, the 05 DS, which was a classic. My dad now going, I don't think we're gonna go this year. They're down 2-1, they're cooked. And then before StubHub, we got like some weird scalper tickets. We had to drive into Connecticut, pick up tickets from a man, shout out to that guy, and then go to the game. We got in. It was real tickets, and then they go ahead in Anaheim and lose game five. But you just remember, yeah, it felt like a hurdle they couldn't get over because they had gotten over the Red Sox in 99 and 03 and lost in 04. 04, obviously heartbreaking, but you've got ups and downs in that rivalry. Until 2009, you just have the Angels beating you in the postseason and going to Anaheim and feeling like this is going to be impossible. We're going to have to steal one. Definitely a crowd akin to like modern Fenway, modern Toronto, where you're like, they're going to be in it from pitch one to the end of the ninth inning. You're going to have to steal this one if you're going to take it. Those are really my memories of the playoff Angels.
Yeah, and it's kind of something you said earlier. Circling back is nobody maybe wants to hear a Yankees fan cry, but the two teams kind of on a different trajectory, obviously, since '09, but kind of similar in the sense of they really haven't made it, won the big one yet. Different routes, the Yankees, even in their bad years, or years current Angels fans would, wish for.
Yeah.
But where are the Yankees at, do you think, going into this offseason? How do they get back to that point in, that 2009 status where they're actually, raising the trophy?
Yeah, that again, like I can never tell if nobody wants to hear Yankees fans say stuff like this or if everybody does because they just want to dance on your current grave. But look, I don't mean this pessimistically. I can't handle doomer stuff. That's another thing that I've sort of evolved when I was right out of college and I was just putting my sports thoughts on the internet, a lot of it was so doomer and so reverse jinxy. And I would have friends from college reach out and be like, "You're a fan of the Yankees. Like, you have to shut up." Like, most of my replies were people being like, "Oh, yeah, worst team ever, only 3 games in first place," or whatever. And it took a long time to learn that lesson of like, "You're right, you're right." People really don't want to hear that. But they do want you to put yourself out there. And so if you're right, if your team wins, like they have to accept you bragging. And if your team loses, you have to eat it a little bit because they're going to be there, making fun of you, making sure all right, be in your place right now. And I think, and I don't mean this in a gloom and doom way, because I do think the Yankees have a very good chance of being in the postseason next year. And I think the Yankees have a solid chance of winning the AL East. I would put the Red Sox as the early favorite. Apologies to the AL champion Blue Jays. I thought this was a magical year. I don't really know how sustainable it was. I think the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Red Sox are all playoff teams to a degree next year. But the Yankees have a lot of problems that I find to be kind of unsolvable this offseason. I think they're going to make a strong effort at bringing Cody Bellinger back. They put the qualifying offer on Trent Grisham, which surprised me. And you can either read it pessimistically as why wouldn't he take 22 million? He's coming back. He's going to block you from Cody Bellinger. He's going to stop you from doing stuff. Or you can read it optimistically as the Yankees know more than we do. They put it on him because they are confident the market is going to give him a deal better than that for multiple years. They know the player, they know what he wants. They probably know he has an offer on the table that is stronger than that he'll take. And then now you get a draft pick back. It helps hedge against signing a Kyle Tucker or Shota Imanaga or Michael King, all of whom would take that draft pick. You'd be swapping fourth round picks. But they have Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones, who I believe in to degrees, but are risks. And Dominguez has not shown us much at the big league level. They're without Carlos Rodon to start the year. You're always going to need more pitching no matter what. They're already facing injury issues. So they should sign a veteran stalwart like a Merrill Kelly, but will they? They don't need like to swing the biggest upside trade of the offseason. They don't need Tarek Skubal, but they need innings. They need 3 relievers. The bullpen was catastrophic last year. They need a bench with intention. They need a shortstop. I'm not sure what Anthony Volpe is. I love Jose Caballero. They need another guy to plug in there. So even if you bring back Bellinger, you're bringing back last year's roster. You would say that's a strong move, but there are so many needs right now, and I don't know what the solves are, like outside of bringing in Scooble and Kyle Tucker. Like without these huge splash moves that I don't think they're going to make, and I'm not even sure if they should make, I don't think this free agent market is particularly amenable to solving their problems. So I don't think this year is the year. I think there's a future. I like the farm system pieces. I like the rotation members they have on the farm more than most. I think that, I think Aaron Boone is a worthy caretaker, not necessarily an additive manager. I'm not as anti-Boone as some, but I'm definitely not pro. I think it's time for a new voice. So, in my opinion, this is kind of a weird year where they probably go to the playoffs again. They probably aren't well equipped to traverse through the playoffs. They probably lose early like they did this year. And then they have to answer some real questions and go through a real makeover with the lockout in front of them. So, moderate pessimism, I would say. I just think there's too much to solve here. I think they'll be pretty good, not great next year.
Yeah, no, and kind of similar to those early 2000s, now kind of jumping back over to the Angels a little bit on that and getting your thoughts. They're a mess. I don't think there's much better way to say it. They keep trying the same thing, just turning into a little bit of insanity with Artie Moreno. but they're going to try again this year. They're giving their GM, their coach, everything 1 year deals. We're going to see some chaos, I would imagine. Uh, only the really only thing I think is kind of feels like a lock now with Maddox coming over is he was a big fan of Molly. I know you guys over at the Baseball Insiders aren't huge on, making those kind of predictions or assumptions, but just kind of feels like that's one where it seems kind of like it's going to be a fit similar to that Tyler Anderson to the Yusei Kikuchi deal, 3 years, give him somewhere in between their contracts. There's really no one way for the Angels to get better this offseason, but what is a way in your head that just getting more competitive? Is it just only adding pitching? Third base is it's a black hole. I mean, and there's a lot of money stuck there with Rendon. Center field, big question. You have an elite defender in Teodosio, but he can't hit the ball. And then you want to move Adele over. It's just kind of seems like they're stuck. You have a whole Jorge Soler sitting on the bench making $13 million. A lot wrong here. What are, in your head, some ways that from an outsider, the Angels could try to make some adjustments there and retool at least?
Yeah, I think they're in an annoying spot too, where a lot of fan bases just sort of want, like, we're addicted to off-season splashes. So we want to look at the free agent market and say, I'm sick of this stasis mode. I want this team to get over the hump, like, not just from 70, like, some teams are stuck at 83, 84, and they're like, I need to get 99 wins next year, and I need to sign these three huge free agents to make it happen. The Angels are sort of in that position of, like, 70, 72, 74, like an area where they're probably hoping best case next year is jump into the wild card picture. And I think that's reasonable, but I do think Angels fans need to, and again, it's tough to prescribe this, but a move like bringing Maddox in, like a move like bringing in a manager who seemingly, when he does not have security, and that's going to be a huge, factor in this whole scenario. But bringing in a manager who I think a lot of people agree is in the mold of successful recent managers, follows a pattern, is not a retread, is not a caretaker, could be genuinely additive. Like bringing in, it's the infrastructure reinvestment. It's coaches who care, coaches who matter. Mike Maddox is as additive as it gets at that position.
Yeah.
Like he has had significant success in rebuilding and reshaping staffs before. So the two routes you can really go on the coaching staff to legitimize your team and roster and operation, you could either get an absolute unproven hotshot, like a 32-year-old who is desperate for a chance and who nobody else would take a chance on because there's too much at stake, or someone like Mike Maddox who has a affirmed track record of success. It works wherever I go. I'm bringing it to you. Do you want it or not? And I think that was a huge and surprising get for the Angels from my perspective. I think the most important thing they could do this year is upgrade the infrastructure in every opportunity they have. Guys like Tyler Mahle, like yeah, that's a nice. I think what you can expect is nice moves and infrastructural improvements, setting up for a better path forward beyond. I think you do have some certified stars though. Like I love Zach Neto.
Yes.
He's a guy that we're watching over on our side of town because we have Anthony Volpe as a first round shortstop, top five prospect in the game who you can say sometimes like, well, he's got flashes. I see him about some players who haven't had a click yet, like Joe Adele. The past couple of years, you could be like, I see it in there. It hasn't been consistent, but I see it. Anthony Volpe, we don't even see it, right? So
No.
Yankee fans are like, man, if only Anthony Volpe could be Zach Neto, like 25 homers, rock solid. He's not a mega star, but certainly a star and someone who you can say, I'll plug him in there for 5 years. I know what he's giving me. Like it's not even a roller coaster anymore. It's like 4 or 5 WAR, and a lot of it's offensive, and the defense is fine. Could be an all-star next year. Wouldn't surprise anybody. Like that's what I think we were hoping for from Anthony Volpe, and instead, I can't even tell if it's in there. So the more pieces like Neto you can get, where you can just say, I can pencil that in. I don't need to worry about growth anymore. I know what that is. Plus solid $8 million to $12 million gets rather than big splurges, and then infrastructural adjustments. I think there's hope there. There's certainly hope forward.
No, there is, and there's a lot of young pieces, like you said. There's the Netos, he's already established. I mean, he's staying a little bit healthier away from getting to that 30-30 mark probably in the next year if he can, like I said, remain healthy. Shanuel, you have the contact, you have more, you have this whole group of first rounders, Adele and Wright, O'Hoppe, not a first rounder, not even drafted by the Angels, but he came over. A lot of young talent here. like I said, investing in that infrastructure would be big for them, especially. Neto now maybe more on the outskirts of that, needing a great coach behind him, and not that he doesn't, but he's kind of established himself at this point. Maddox, and you mentioned him. Looking at this pitching staff, there is talent there. You have Kikuchi, who's had his great runs. Soriano, depending on the day, can be lights out or knocked out pretty early with the walks. Detmers makes the transition back into the rotation. I know you mentioned staying in that 8 to 12, the nice moves. Is that a rotation where you desperately need an ace in your thoughts, or can you build a competitive playoff team that actually can, maybe win a game or two with a rotation of, more mid rotation arms with upside?
I think, I mean, I hate to say it, but I feel like you're more likely to aim for mid rotation arms with upside at this point. And
Yeah.
also, something I've understood more as I've gotten older is just the value in bringing in innings. I mean, the Angels should be all over Merrill Kelly. Like
Mm.
I'll ring that bell for no matter what team is out there that just needs three stars they can consistently and know exactly what they're getting day in and day out. Jose Quintana, like these are the pieces that if you sign them, you could flip them midseason if you have to, but also you might not have to. I think the toughest thing, it's like getting a quarterback, right? Is developing an ace. It's so hard to know that you've got one in the system or to know that you can grab one externally. I mean, I don't know if it's too outlandish to say Angels fans, you got to be building up that infrastructure to be attractive for Paul Skeens. Like you
Yeah.
just do.
Yeah. They're a long ways away, I think, from being able to bring in a name like that, or, have that attraction to other players. I mean, I know at some point the money is the money and they'll go where it is, but it's definitely difficult pitching the Angels on anyone right now. You have a lame duck manager, general manager. Nobody knows what's happening tomorrow with Artie. It's definitely a hard pitch. Um, Now, just kind of getting to the closing parts here. Baseball Insider, circling back to that. What do you guys have in store this offseason? Mentioned want to bring up the Discord. I know there's a few of Inside Halo fans in there already, but just want to get more information on that for everyone who might not have gotten into there yet.
Yeah, no content. We're not doing any content this offseason. No,
No.
this is the best time of year to join the Baseball Insiders and come chat with us in the Discord. Robert Murray is all over there. We're getting him comfortable. I'm not comfortable in the Discord either, to be honest. So we're working on increasing both of our comfort in conversing in the Discord. But yeah, if you like our show on YouTube or on, your favorite audio platform, wherever you get it, hit the join button on YouTube. It'll give you a link to the Discord. Join at the Rumor Mill tier. You get a weekly private Q&A for a half hour with Robert, where he'll answer your questions about free agency. We've been doing one show a week because it's so funny to tell people who don't maybe aren't baseball crazies. You'll tell friends, I do this baseball podcast. They'll be like, how often do you do it? And you'll be like, well, the baseball season is kind of the worst time of year for the podcast. And they'll be like, what are you talking about? But September, I mean, August, September, in the playoffs, of course, people do want to hear your thoughts, but after the trade deadline, it's like a dead period for the baseball insiders for chatter. I mean, it is really hard to get on the air and just be like, man, how about that Mets Marlins series? It's not what the show does. Plenty of people
No.
do a great job talking, daily baseball, but we're here. Our audience is here for off-season transactions, rumors, etc. So July we peaked and we scaled it down for August, September, October. We were doing one show a week. We're going to scale it way back up for the off season. Winter meetings will be live every day. We're going to be doing a lot of obviously chatting in the Discord. We're going to be experimenting with some content this off season too. We're going to bring in some new faces. So Robert and I are going to be doing more shows per week. I'm not sure if it's two or three. I do think we're going to be doing pretty standard Monday, Wednesday, Friday throughout the
Mhm.
fun part of the off season. But we are going to have some, non-live video content, 10, 15-minute videos by some of the other fan-sided MLB staff writers who have great personalities, who are people that we've been wanting to get up here for a while. Um, I'm probably going to be doing some, yeah, again, non-live video commentary. Audio goes on the podcast feed, video goes on the YouTube channel. So a lot of branding efforts this offseason. You could expect the cadence of the shows to tick up really quickly. I think as soon as next week, we held off this week because of the Silver Sluggers. We're going to be doing plenty more shows next week and moving forward. And yeah, this is the best time of year. So for everyone who's out there who likes baseball, doesn't love it, doesn't totally know the rhythms of the season and off season, I promise when I say I do a baseball podcast, but it sucks during the season, that what I mean is it's awesome to do it now. So we're going to be doing plenty more stuff for everybody.
No, absolutely. It's honestly been a blast being part of that, joining there about a little over a year or so ago now, and just the insight from different fan bases, getting to talk baseball. I mean, it's not often you can find somewhere where pretty much 24/7, even during the slow periods, you can talk baseball with people who have similar thoughts and are, genuinely nice people to talk to for the most part. You don't really have any issues in there. It's been a great group, and definitely recommend everyone going to check that out. And lastly, Adam, I mean, if you could want to plug anywhere else you're at, where they can find you on X, Twitter, and anything where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm there for now. No, I gotta stay on X. I'm at Adam Weinrib. I'll be there. And again, we mentioned earlier, like when the Yankees lose, trust me, people do find me. No one was worse to me last year at Game 5 of the World Series than Toronto Blue Jays fans. Not Red Sox fans, not Dodgers fans, the actual team that won that World Series. It was Blue Jays fans. So I didn't do much gloating this year. I just sat in my corner and I gloated a little bit on my personal feed. I didn't go into people's mentions, but trust me, people do go into my mentions. If you want to be there at Adam Weinrib, I can take it. I know what the job is. But yeah, I do the Baseball Insiders podcast, Yankees Go Yard podcast, writing on Yankees Go Yard, fansided.com/baseball-insiders for the Baseball Insiders feed. That's a lot of personality driven content from Robert, from Eric Cole, our co-host of the Baseball Insiders Prospect Show. Me, I write some weird satire columns there, but also baseball analysis. I try to do as much humor writing as I still can. Sometimes I do comedy shows in New York. If anybody's in local, come on, check them out. Less often. I did some great, fun sketch comedy with a lot of friends before the pandemic. We toured some shows to LA and stuff. We had a great time. We don't do it so much anymore, but maybe follow me on Instagram at @aweinerib. That's where you'll find out if that's happening. And yeah, fun off season ahead. Really psyched. Thanks for letting me talk about it a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. We appreciate it greatly. Letting, coming on here, sharing your insight, and everybody getting down below, and give him a follow, and definitely check out the Baseball Insiders, Yanks Go Yard. Give him a chance, even though he's a Yankees fan. And thank you again, Adam. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate you having me.